Grand Risings. I was thinking about, man, I was on this one field trip a few years ago. Well, this was like when I was younger. And I was like, I'm thinking about power. And this guy, I'm like, these white people, this is what they'll do to hold you down on your power. This guy who I had to share a room with because it was like a couple of us in a room. And I was part of the overnight field trip that we were on at Jekyll Island. Shout out Jekyll Island in Georgia. And so this guy, I always understood like there's some people ascribe to a hierarchy of things, which I've never been one to allow to influence my decisions. However, at that moment in time, I did without consciously being aware, because what he ended up saying was like, he called me a swagger jacker. I'm like, and at the time I had no idea what that was, but the reason for that was because we were going to go to breakfast, right? It was breakfast time. And so what we were going to do is, or what he came up with this idea that they were going to wear their pajamas to breakfast, and it would look cool because they're wearing their pajamas instead of like regular clothes. And since it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity, it would be fun. And so I was gonna do the same thing because I thought that was a good idea. And then he came at me with this negative label. It was like, oh no, you can't do that. You're a swagger jacker. So what that did for me was, even though it was like, I think it was like 4 to 8 of us in the same room, it put me in the out group as like someone who is not a part of whatever they're doing, even though we're roommates. So that like drew a line in the sand, and it really like downed a little bit of the trip, because I was like, what? Swagger jacker? I'm like, I thought this was a good idea. One, you said it in front of me. Two, I mean, I guess it clearly made us, also, he clearly declared himself my enemy by calling me that, because he was like, no, you can't go out there and do this. And then I changed clothes and didn't do it. So it also made it seem like I lost. I submitted to his will, which I definitely didn't need to do, because where is he now? Nowhere. It's just, but at the time, I just didn't have enough of a good will, a strong enough will to combat his will and say, great artists steal. You put the idea out there, it's mine. I'm doing what I want. You're not happy? Suck my left nut. So I just needed to actually vent that, because now that I'm getting more and more into myself, I'm like, man, that dude is a jerk. I don't need anybody trying to tell me what to do. I'm telling people what to do. I mean, like, because it made, like, it just made everything, like, not as good as I wanted it to be, especially when it came to, yeah, looking cool in front of the girls on this trip to Jekyll Island. It's just like, shout out to my teacher, Miss Davis. She is the G. She's so cool. She paid for my trip for me to go. And that's love. I love her for that. I don't know what, I mean, I needed it to go. I don't know. I really don't know why she paid for my trip. But that experience for me, other than that, one person being a dickhead, was amazing. Like, we did so much on that trip. We saw the beach. We learned about the animals, played beach volleyball. We even had a bike ride as a group through the island of Jekyll. And that was literally one of the best bike rides. I think I was in the front of the pack, and there was like this one time where it's like we were riding and I was like, man, I'm tired and I'm thirsty. And so then we rode by this as a group, we rode by this water fountain in front of these grand, beautiful homes. And Jekyll Island is one of those places where you have to be, they got covenants and stuff, so the houses have to be painted a certain way. And I just stopped and I got me some water out of that water fountain. And then like my classmates were riding by and they were like laughing because they're like, man, I wanted to do that, but I didn't. Cameron, you're free spirited. I'm like, I don't know what y'all doing, man. I'm about to give me some water, man. And then we, of course, went and continued on and we learned about some of the conservation efforts that are going on there. So, at some point in life, I will go back to Jekyll Island. I may even buy a house. I mean, it's an island in Georgia, which I don't really feel too many Georgians are talking about. However, that was one of the best. I mean, it was literally one of the best experiences in middle school and one of the best field trips overall. Especially it's got like we were learning about how they had like some turtles and stuff that came to Jekyll Island and the birds, and I think they had like a 4-H club that also sponsored it there. So anybody, I would recommend just going back and I'm gonna go back and see the island itself, like go to a restaurant or something. And I bet they got beaches. I'm pretty sure they got a beach. Like they definitely had a beach. Like we went to at one point we were actually looking at some of the plants that they had that were growing on the island. They have a variety of variegated species, some of which aren't found anywhere else. And my teacher, I think she had a book describing like which specific plants there were on the island. And we stopped on the boardwalk between the encampment and the actual beach front. It was a wooden pathway, and they were like, oh, look at this flowering species. Let's see what we can determine about it based off of its genus, and describe it based off of like, okay, it's got this many sepals or this many branches, or it has like this height, this color, and going through all that dichotomy. And it'll explain to you which plant it is based off of a dichotomy. I think it had something to do with like a Mendelian dichotomous description chart. And so, yeah, there is a beach on Jekyll Island. Yeah. So that was a great trip. Shout out to Ms. Davis, my math teacher. And man, that was cool. So the moral of this point is people will try to down you on your willpower. And sometimes you don't realize what's going on, but certain phrases, like he came up with this word swagger jacker. Like I've never heard anybody ever say swagger jacker ever again. But I knew what he meant. And even the word swagger jacker was kind of, it was slick. I'm like, what? Swagger jacker? I mean, that sounds pretty slick, but I don't want to be that. But even like the slickness of it was cunning in the language and the use of it. So it had a little bit of a control over me. It had more than a little bit. It had control over me. And so, well, so even if it rhymes, what's my will? What's my will telling me to do? Because if I'm gonna take someone's idea, or if I'm gonna use an idea, ideas belong to everybody. They are birthed by whoever will express them. So that's where the innovation comes in. I'm learning to innovate more by taking the ideas, synthesizing them for my benefit, for our benefit, and profiting off of them, creating the value that I need, I want, my wealth I'm building. That ain't stopping. Once that innovation really gets going, the creativity comes in and the invention comes in. And when that gets here, it'll get here. But the innovation, yeah,